Welcome back to Cape Critiquers, everybody. Today we're talking about The Crow from 1994, starring the late, great Brandon Lee.
Died on the set.
Definitely what this movie's most famous for at this point.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
I'll start with, I think Brandon Lee's death makes this film a lot sharper. Not like, oh, I'm glad he died or anything, but like, it just did actually work for the movie, I guess.
It did.
Probably cut off a ton of fat.
Well,
that would have been.
Even on the way here, me and you were discussing, this whole movie is just all about tragedy.
Yeah.
Even surrounding it is about tragedy. You told me
It's
that...
created based on a tragedy.
Yeah.
The story is about a tragedy, and you had a tragedy, a real tragedy, before it was completed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, what would you say, the writer...
and I'd like to get his name because he's the
original.
the creator of the Crow.
I watched like a whole video about him, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, his fiance was killed by supposedly a drunk driver.
Wow.
And he was grieving so much that this was his way of dealing with the grief. Was
James O'Barr.
Yes.
Yeah, James.
Created this character
Out of
who
grief.
has a tragedy in the story and goes through it. And then, like you said, the real tragedy, Brandon Lee, who was just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like almost like a tribute to him, too.
Not much more you can say about him. I mean, looking ahead at the future, his potential.
Yeah, this was like the big break was supposed to happen. It was a low-budget film,
It
obviously.
was a low budget.
But, yeah.
And I had read that he was instrumental in getting it done
Yes.
also. Like he really wanted this movie made.
Yeah, this movie is like visually, it looks like one of those cheesy 90s, late 80s, like maybe even late 80s, like B movies almost. But it's like probably like the best that like any one of those could ever be. And like even there's like sets on this that remind me of like shit that like Tim Burton was doing
Yeah.
with like those weird city sets that they
Right.
had that were definitely miniatures that they were
Yeah.
kind of just flying the camera around
I
in.
mean, even the intro sequence when they go into the city and there's like
Yeah.
fire and smoke.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this setting is amazing.
Yeah, that's just something that's like been lost from movies for like 20 years.
And you think, what,
I agree.
1994?
Yeah.
Visually, it was stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going in and going, wow. And the simplicity of basically his makeup and what his look was just wow.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, like, making it seem so effortless, like how much aura the whole city has.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then, like, you look at something like Sin City, and it, like, doesn't even pale in comparison.
I
and it's
agree.
like, you could tell how hard they're trying to
Yeah.
bring that vibe.
No. His makeup, he was for me, he was kind of a cross between the Joker and Batman put together.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like a Schwarzenegger
No.
Yeah, he
guy.
was skinny.
But it worked perfectly. That long coat that he wore and just the way he moved, he was slim, he was fast, he was...
He really looks like a lot of those more grungy 90s comic characters.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of B from V for Vendetta.
I agree.
Just the way he spoke and everything, and just like that
It's
same
all
type
very
of wit.
poetic.
Yeah,
you know?
poetic, yeah.
And it's crazy to see how influential I think The Crow was immediately and how influential it has continued to be.
Yeah.
There's a wrestler that made a career off of being the Crow, basically.
Yeah.
Which is
Wild.
incredible.
I thought Eric Draven was a perfect revenge-driven protagonist because he didn't just want justice, he wanted to balance the scales in his own way.
That's
I
right.
agree.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. This movie was rated R.
Yeah. A lot of cursing.
Yeah, a lot of drug
Drugs.
use. And
Yeah. 100% R.
Nudity.
Boobies.
And we
Yeah,
were
R.
listing him as an anti-hero, I guess.
Yeah.
Vigilante.
Vigilante anti-hero thing for sure.
Yeah.
Operating outside of the law, making his own justice.
And,
Death.
and he hooks up with the cop that's also works a little bit outside of the lines.
Yeah, true.
Batman and Jim Gordon type of relationship.
Lexus mustard on the bottom.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
See, but I like that whole quirky scene with him and having the relationship with the girl.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought, I can't remember his name, but the guy from Ghostbusters, that's the cop in this movie. I thought he was great in this movie.
He was very good in this movie. And they touched on his little backstory, but not enough to take over the whole movie. So you had an idea of what he was going through.
And the little girl.
With the mom who got rehabilitated.
Yeah.
You know? Somebody let me see the way. That was actually a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask, what are his powers? What can he do?
I think he's invulnerable.
Yeah, well, he's immune. He's immortal,
Yeah.
basically.
It's almost just like the Crow can heal anything.
He could see through the crow's eyes. He can see people's memories or feelings once he touches them or something like that. And then one other thing is with the mom, when he like was he removing the heroin from her body?
Yeah, whatever.
morphine, yeah.
Morphine.
Which is
It was
interesting.
morphine,
So he can remove impurities from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I was just curious.
Yeah, he played it. He's obviously a supernatural being because he's dead and came back to life. He's a supernatural being. But he also played it. It was played as if he was a human looking for revenge also, with just elevated skills, and he didn't just walk around burning people. And
I thought Top Dollar was an interesting choice of villain because obviously they couldn't really beat each other in a fight. Like he couldn't beat Eric, but just his like philosophy is just very interesting. I'm just like, we have to make this concept and bring it forward and all that shit. What do you think of his dynamic with Micah or Mika? Was it
Mika? I think was right.
The girl.
Yeah,
That's his sister.
yeah,
Half
half sister.
fucking weird.
Yeah, I feel like that was just a little bit of a thing I didn't like. This weird complication there.
yeah,
I didn't see the point of her
Yeah.
the whole time, personally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She had a thing with eyes.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
just weird.
Her eyes are beautiful.
Yeah.
So pretty.
They
And the next thing, they're cut out and being
Yeah.
burned, and
And she wanted the crow too.
yeah, they had she was like almost like a mystical being herself a bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like spiritual in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. She sort of scared me. I didn't like her.
Yeah.
Wasn't not a big
Very not a big fan of incest
fan.
either.
No.
Yeah. A little gross.
Everybody was just so murderous in this too.
yeah. It was a brutal
city.
Yeah.
brutal
Just
setting.
gritty.
Yeah.
Really gritty.
What was the name of the holiday again?
Devil's
When I
Night.
grew up, they called it Gate Night, Mischief Night, whatever it was, the night before Halloween.
Halloween.
We used to go out with eggs and shaving cream and do stuff to people's properties, but mostly to each other, throwing
Just
eggs
think of the
at each
fucking
other
Malcolm in
and
the Middle episode
stuff like that.
when
so
they just set up the shit like on the roof.
so that's another thing we used to do. We used to perch somewhere and throw eggs at cars as they drove by and stupid things. But this took it to that next level, and they called it Hell Night, right?
Yeah. Devil's Night.
Yeah, Devil's Night, whatever it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I thought it was like interesting how
back in the day it was worse.
it became like a thing where it was like all I guess like the top gang leaders in the city
Yeah,
like all were a part of it, and it was like to flush out just like
they would
I don't
burn.
even know what they're like. They were just evil, honestly.
Yeah,
So
they were
it's-
evil.
I
They
guess
would
it's, like,
burn,
almost
the
To stop
successful businesses.
gentrification
And,
type shit. Like they don't want big business getting in there.
yeah. But even like they were trying to just get rid of like tenants,
yeah,
buildings and shit too.
yeah, and that's why they killed her, because she was on a committee to
Yeah,
stop it and keep it growing.
yeah. They just kind of wanted unbridled control.
That apartment that they had with the window.
That was a cool apartment.
I don't know. It almost seems like in whatever movies afterwards, it always looks like
yeah.
that apartment. Like
Yeah.
Wednesdays,
Yeah.
like where they were staying at the school.
Yeah, her
Had
dorm.
that same
I feel like
type.
even
Yeah,
like
well, even look
the
at
Spider-Man movies.
even
maybe.
look at we just watched Penguin.
Yeah,
the
same thing,
apartment they
right.
had was the same
Right.
type of thing.
And again, 1994. You know, we're not talking about something made 2 years
But
ago.
Yeah.
I like the whole way that movie opened with the narration, and then you come up and then you see the cop there smoking his cigarette and
Yeah.
assessing the scene, like what the hell went on here, and then the way that they told the story all the way through that. I thought it was a great little
I think
directing choice.
the city is also so alive
Mm-hmm.
in this movie.
Oh yeah,
Like, and Matt Reeves, I think, did a great job with his Gotham in Batman. But like, if you ever need tips on how to create a fucking Gotham City,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no
literally.
this
doubt.
has got to be the blueprint.
And again, use of shadows and light was done well in this movie, I think, as well.
A lot of rain too.
A lot of rain, yes.
Classic trick.
Yeah, but that was one of the catchphrases in this. Was it ever going to
Can't
stop
rain
raining?
all the
Or
time.
Can't rain all the time, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Minimal prosthetics and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
makeup or whatever. They didn't turn him into a monster. You knew
No.
who that was. But that little addition of the lines just
Yeah,
made him feel supernatural. You know,
Is that the tragedy
Yeah.
mask?
maybe.
yeah. I think maybe it was supposed to be a play on that
Maybe.
because he does kind of look at it as he's doing that.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, like, just everything in this, it's so aesthetically pleasing and well done. It's just like the ultimate like brooding showcase aesthetically.
Yeah.
You can not like the style and still appreciate like how they go out of their way to like show the style.
Just everything about like it's all black leather, it's all rain, it's dark and
Yeah.
shadowy, it's just looks cold and gross.
That's really what makes this movie stand out from like so many other like 90s brooding
Yeah.
movies like that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as like its B movie aesthetic goes, like this is like the best possible outcome of like one of those. And I'm not even to say that it's a B movie. It really isn't, but it does to an extent have that effect to it. I'd
I
say.
probably have the soundtrack someplace because we got into the music. Mom and I, we got into this movie. We liked it. And listened to the music a lot because we heard it in the movie, and it was a small movie, but still, I
Yeah,
think
and-
we rented it. I don't remember it in the theaters.
good.
We rented it.
The Cure is fucking awesome.
Yeah, but it was pure.
80s and 90s like punk.
Mm-hmm.
Grunge.
There's a handful of bands in this movie that were legitimate bands
Oh, I'm sure there were.
that are performing in that shithole club.
God knows the things that were going on in that club and are going
You could
upstairs and
fucking wipe your finger in a corner of that club and you would get every disease.
I don't know what the hell was going on there. And then they're going upstairs in these shithole apartments. Oh, my God.
Speaking of people who live there, Sarah was an effective emotional anchor for me. Showed how like Eric's life still mattered to the living.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And same thing with the cop. I just like how he brought like a grounded take to the whole world.
Yeah.
He cared. He wanted to make it a better city, but
He can't do but on his own.
Yeah.
He
What do
couldn't
you
do it on
make
his
of
own.
the relationship between him and his superior, I guess?
the detective,
Mhm.
which he was a peer to at one time and lost that. He lost his detective badge, and he was knocked back
Well,
down
it was
to a
just
beat
it was
cop.
because he was trying to do the right thing. So
And
it's almost
that's right,
like
but outside of the lines.
the new detective guy, he knows putting his nose where he shouldn't result in almost acknowledging what's happening in the city.
Yeah.
So it's almost easier. Well, yeah, it is easier to just only go so far.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a very good job of like showing like how and making it make sense too of like how his passion like kind of solved the issue with how the ending happens, the final battle.
Yeah.
I also liked the characters like T-Bird, just like all
That gang.
yeah. He had just like an interesting way of saying things.
Yes.
T-Bird, I got trouble. One of my crew got himself perished. Top dollar. Yeah? And who might that be? Tintin. Somebody stuck his blades in all his major organs in alphabetical order. Well, gentlemen, by all means, I think we ought to have an introspective moment of silence for poor old Tintin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great dialogue.
It
wasn't
is.
It's great
Well,
dialogue.
he does a
and
line
they
of
all
coke.
did it well. Exactly. Top dollar. That voice just penetrated you.
Yeah. All the dialogue in this movie is so like gothically Shakespearean and like modern to the 90s
Right.
as well.
Right.
I would
Perfect.
Yeah, I would go with that. What was the budget on this film?
Would I be crazy to say not more than 35 million?
23 million, 94 million box
All
office.
right, so it did well.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they made like fucking 5 of them.
They're all over the place.
And that was just box office, because I'm sure
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah, definitely,
this
definitely.
is-
The fact that it got a remake last year.
Terrible remake.
30-year remake.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was explaining before, it's like this particular movie, especially with the tragic way Brandon Lee
Yeah.
Mhm.
perished.
It
Was-
just almost shouldn't be touched.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
You
what I
would-
said.
It
I would
sucks
agree.
too because I think Skarsgård's like actually a great choice
Yes.
for it.
I agree, but
Yeah, but
there's
it's
some things
touch
you
it.
it's
just
hollowed
don't.
earth.
Mhm. Yeah, I heard aesthetically it was closer to Jared Leto Joker aesthetics more than you just can't touch what this film did.
yeah.
That's
Right.
what it is really.
Yeah, it should have just been left alone. Definitely just a money grab. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought the supernatural elements were handled well because they never overshadowed the human story. The Crow felt more like a guide and a symbol than just a plot device.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the connection between Eric and the Crow added tension, especially whenever the Crow is in danger.
Yeah,
Yes.
I said that before. It's like, yeah, you know he's supernatural, but he's
I think the core of all of it is that he's still just a guy
But
that
that's
like,
it.
went through
Yeah,
this.
He's
Yeah.
supernatural. I don't think he even grasps that he's supernatural. It's like, this is my second chance to write,
Mhm.
what was wrong.
and I may not be here after this.
Yeah, and they even get into that too,
Yeah.
like the way that Sarah's talking about like when people are taken and
Yeah.
when stuff happens like that, and how it's just like so final and you don't get chances to write that stuff.
I like the way that they kept going back to stories. Like, okay, the way that it opens up, they're already dead.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm going to talk in the movie, they're already perished.
Yeah.
But then they go back and you see the whole story build of their relationship and everything else. I just love the way this movie flowed through that.
Yeah.
It was done very well.
Yeah.
Because like, I hate when a movie has like 2 beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
and it doesn't just flow well.
Yeah.
For the most part, I thought the action and SFX held up well. The action scenes felt visceral, and the practical effects still hold up.
Mm-hmm.
There are some points where, like, when it's moving a lot, and like, there's one zoom out shot from the apartment where it's like you can tell that like it's just him on set
Right.
put onto the miniature
Mm-hmm.
when zooming
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, there's a handful of things like that that
Yeah.
I picked up, especially with like rotoscoping the Crow onto the miniature and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of it I saw too is when he's running on the rooftops. It seems like too.
I didn't really even notice that.
There's like a couple like side scrolling shots
Mm-hmm.
where he's running on the rooftops that look like maybe he was running on set and then they put him onto the rooftops.
Right.
Because I'm sure he did do a ton of stunts.
Oh, I'm
for
sure
this
he
too.
did.
I mean, that's how we die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it was during the shooting, actually, no pun intended, of the apartment scene where they were both killed.
Yeah.
In a scripted moment that was cut and from the film, and probably it's just, people believe that it was just destroyed. Or maybe it's just lost in evidence lockers, wherever. Yeah. Eric is shot by Funboy, and as the cameras rolled, Lee was shot in the abdomen with a piece of dummy bullet left in the gun's barrel from an earlier scene. The .44 Magnum was loaded with blanks, and it was hastily made by the crew member who removed gunpowder from the live bullet. The blank cartridge fired the fragment with the force of a real bullet, striking Lee from 15 feet
So it was
away.
on set.
Yeah.
It was the actual filming of the
Yeah,
scene.
he went through like 6 hours of surgery, and they could not.
We remember when it was happening, and because obviously he's a big name because of who his father was, and
he
was very newsworthy.
This movie, though, was like definitely the one that he came into his own.
Oh,
I think.
most certainly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't around during the inception of all this, but from reception and hearing your recollection of it, seems like this is where he would have taken that upwards turn career-wise.
He would have
Most
been
certainly.
the next action star or
Yeah.
whatever. His acting, though, was spot on. I mean, he
Yeah,
wasn't
I like
over the top. He wasn't...
Kind of reminds me of almost more classically trained Keanu.
I'd have
see
to
that.
agree with that. Yeah.
It seems like even personality-wise, he kind of similar to him in that way, too. I don't know, they just seem like very similar guys. Like, they're both in bands, both happen to act.
Yeah, he definitely was really a musician as well, and that's why I guess the choice of him being in this and being a musician, maybe that's why he was so behind it. He just took to the story.
Yeah, very similar lives and career paths for those two.
Yeah, people loved him.
There are a lot of interesting editing moments in this movie. Like one match cut where it's grunge, I think it is. It's like one of the head guys, but like he's like looking through the dirt and like he's letting the dirt fall through his fingers, and then it cuts to the eggs in the pan. Just like great shit.
Yeah.
The set that they put together for this, it worked well in this movie. And one of the great scenes in this movie is when he goes into the pawn shop and he's sort of screwing around with this guy trying to find out what's going on. But then...
But he's trying to get the ring.
And he's trying to get the ring back. And when he finally finds that ring, I just think that was such a deep personal moment. And that just resonated. It was like wild. And then it was game on from there. Telling him I'm coming for them all. you know?
It's a pretty simple story.
It is a simple story, but it works well. I mean, there's a lot of energy in really that compact little thing.
I think it's a simple story can work when just like everything like leads towards like what's going on,
Yeah.
and making it entertaining too, of course. But like just it's very interesting like how just everybody speaks and everybody does everything, and I don't know, stuff like that is great.
Even that last big fight around the table with all the heads, there was some tropes that you see in a lot of stuff, like, oh, he's not there. Where is? Where'd he go? It just worked well in this movie. I just thought that they pieced it all together, and they weren't over the top action scenes, but they worked. Everything
One
worked
thing
well.
I didn't like in that scene is the performance. The guy who like goes up to him to check if he's dead, and he's like, it's like kind of he says it like a question type thing.
Yeah.
He's not breathing. It's like that.
So that bird, the crow, is that what gives him his powers?
Basically, yeah.
The
That's
crow
what-
is a very spiritual
Yeah.
animal
Yes.
throughout history, whether
Yeah,
it's
Native Americans would-
Americans,
yeah.
So
Definitely.
the amount of chances for the bad guys to shoot the fucking bird. One of the scenes where like the mom was getting drugged up with Fun Boy,
Yeah.
and the bird just lands. Shoot him. Shoot the
Yeah.
bird. And then even in the room where they're all in the big boss room with all the guys loading up on drugs and ammo.
I don't know if they were
It's a very
privy
elusive
to the
bird.
knowledge of that yet, though, because I believe
Well, he kept.
Yeah,
they
what's
the
her name?
girl.
they
Yeah.
kept telling
Mika?
the guy, "Hey, the bird." He has a bird with him, and even the lady, the ancestral lady,
Mika, I think. What was that her name?
her
Mika?
name, Mika.
Yeah.
Mika's like, "Oh, the bird has powers."
Well, he did shoot it in the church.
Yeah.
He didn't get to finish it off, though.
Yeah, that was weird. Like,
Yeah.
It has like some sort
He
of
winged them.
power like that too. Does anybody even have a least favorite scene? I feel like this really isn't a movie for that.
No.
You know?
Yeah, no.
Favorite
Not even
scene?
like out of respect or anything. Just
Yeah,
I don't
no.
really
Yeah,
have
I
one.
don't have any.
I'd say,
This was perfectly drawn.
Even the little
From-
girl was really good in this movie. I mean, it was
Yeah.
probably one of her first big roles, too.
Yeah.
And she did really well in this. I liked the whole thing with the skateboard, and like she's a loner. She played that really well. She was just as much as part of this story as he was. She almost tried to figure out what was going on. And
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
it's like she's
Yeah.
recapping the whole thing.
Yeah.
You even gotta give it to them, like, given what happened, like, didn't even seem to affect their ability to make this movie.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's like that one story where Gladiator, one of the main guys for it died. The guy who was running pretty much like the Gladiator games, and and then they pretty much remade the movie to make him like more of a good guy.
Yeah.
So just interesting how like editing can solve a lot of issues.
Yeah.
He died before the completion of the movie, and they were using the stunt doubles and whatever CGI was available, I guess, in
Well,
1994.
They did really well
The
with
entire intro sequence doesn't have, like, during the action parts of that intro sequence, it's not Brandon Lee.
Right.
It's all the stunt guy.
Yeah. You know, but one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, to me it was a sleeper, but I guess it did better in the box office than I thought. But
I mean, it's
enjoyed it.
definitely made much more than just the box office. Too.
And I'll be honest, I think what drew me to it also, not just Brandon Lee, was that The Cure did the soundtrack because they were kind of popular back then.
I'm like you. I probably did not see it in the theater.
No, I didn't.
probably
Because
rented
we
it.
were rental. We
Yeah,
were rental people.
I rented it afterwards.
My favorite scene, I honestly can't pick between T-Bird's death and the explosion of that pawn shop.
Either the face-off with Tintin, I thought was really powerful as far as, like, introducing the Crow, like, character, or his showdown in the conference room with everybody. I just thought was really fun, and I don't know,
It was
it's a
done
great
well.
scene.
Yeah, I just like when he speaks and gives like monologues.
So, yeah, any scene he was in, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing about the movie that was boring to me. It was always, wow, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And like you said, the way he spoke, the way he was dressed, his makeup, it just rolled perfectly.
Yeah, I feel like so much of the allure of this movie is how close to the character Brandon Lee is. Because it's just like
And he just portrayed it
a rock star
simply.
guy. Yeah.
Didn't bring too much to it. And maybe it's because of what happened. Maybe there was more
I mean, I
stuff,
think that's
like you
part of
said,
it, but it's like
I just think that the simplicity of the character worked well.
it kind of just like is like what would happen if Brandon Lee like this actually happened to him,
Yeah, well, I guess you're right.
and then having been that he actually did end up passing away during the filming of this, it's just there's just so much
Tragic.
surrounding this movie.
So, yeah, the lore of this movie is in itself a story. You know, born out of born
Like
out of tragedy.
I'm sure
Yeah.
even like there's like the pictures of him in the band. It's like that's probably just Brandon Lee in his band.
Yeah,
Like they're probably not faking those pictures.
you're probably right. Probably
There's
right.
scenes where he's just like fucking rocking out on rooftops.
Mhm.
Like
I thought that was pretty cool. I like some of those scenes, you know.
Yeah.
And then that was it. Now this is it. I'm putting that down. And
it is
smashed
just
everything.
it's so interesting like to weave that into the movie because like that probably just is him though.
Yeah.
Like he can play guitar. He was in a
Right, yeah.
band.
Yeah, you're right though. It is just a good like leaving his humanity behind type thing.
That was it. And then my favorite scene was the entire scene in the pawn shop, from the moment he walked through the door all the way to the
For
end.
the ring.
I just thought that was just perfect. And now burn the fucker down.
Is that gasoline I smell?
Yeah, that guy's fantastic. He was always a great character actor. The voice, just his mannerisms and everything.
no, holy shit.
Because he always plays that piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he does it well. So God bless. But yeah, no, I just thought it was a great, simple movie, and I'm happy I brought it forward. It's just when I came up with this idea, that was like one of the first that popped in my mind. It's got to be the Crow.
Good pick.
Yeah.
For me, I'd have to say it's the interaction with Fun Boy. When he enters the room and then basically shoots him in the hand, he just starts laughing manically. I love that. And then even when one of the goons shows up and he basically like goes out of the window, it's so cool. The whole entire scene was awesome.
Yeah.
But
No,
even
I
I
agree.
think even the feel I get behind the character as a whole through the whole movie, I just love. You feel his anger, but also pain, and also just everything's just awesome about this movie.
It's almost like it's just like dripping out of every fucking orifice of this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, and it's you cannot just sit there and not feel bad for the guy.
Everything, the way he walked, the way he moved, just was like spot on perfect. It's like you can't get that. I don't even think there's a superhero character MCU that gives you that feeling when he walked into a room or whatever.
I'd say the closest is probably the Batman for me,
Yeah,
Really?
and I don't even think it's that
I
close.
think
Yeah.
V for Vendetta close to me.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
Like I wonder
Both
how
agree,
much
in all
that
honesty.
character is based off the Crow at all or anything.
It's
At least the adaptations.
Yeah.
I mean, even the first time he had the interaction when he was on the other side with the girl, like she heard a few things. She's like, "This is definitely him," and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
went right for it, fearless.
Yeah. Final ratings?
I'll give it a 7.5.
I'm at
Pretty
an 8.
close to an 8, but yeah.
I'm an 8.
You go 8.5.
This is gonna be my movie. I can't find anything wrong with this movie. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Good.
10.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
1994.
Yeah.
What does that
Low-
make it? 31 years or something?
Yeah, and the low budget film that just pulled it together with a lot of tragedy, and they still pulled it together and came out with something that works well.
I mean, low budget. I'm sure that was might have been expensive for 1994 or
Maybe.
whatever.
Yeah, I
but
don't think 23 million is that low.
was that right? But
Yeah.
visually incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to go with an 8.5 to a 9.
If I was the type of person where like I rated movies on like if they succeeded on their goal and like this is exactly what they wanted it to be, I'd probably rate it a 10.
Yeah.
I'm just from the standpoint of like a vision that they were trying to capture. I just think they pretty damn near perfectly captured it. But I can't rate it just solely on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that mixed in with just actual like critical analysis of it. I
It's like
think.
enjoyment.
Obviously, they can't remake the thing.
No, yeah,
No.
can't. Yeah,
Bad idea.
Good.
All
So
right.
we're gonna spin again.
we're gonna spin again.
Okay.
Let's see. We are doing the Rocketeer, my pick.
Rocketeer.
Which we actually have Captain America coming up kind of soon.
Yes.
So yeah, next time on the Cape Critiquers, we'll be doing the Rocketeer, 1991. I've been waiting for this one, so happy that it got
Okay.
picked.
Good.
Big gopher.